welcome to Faith on Film with Isaac Hernandez and Holly McClure. Keeping you informed on faith and family entertainment.
Magic of love.
We're rocking. What a way to go back to the 90s. All right.
Sorry. Are we on already? Are we on?
Back to the 90s. Who does not forget? I mean, who can forget? Flesh of My Flesh, the song that was played at weddings and still is for decades. Jesus. I mean, those songs and more. Who are we going to have fun with today, Isaac? Who are we going to have fun
with? Of course, we're talking about the wonderful Leon Patillo. Let me make sure I set up all this here.
All right, you guys.
Hold on just a second. Now, of course, Leon, oh my gosh, he's had quite a career, anywhere from playing with Santana, being the lead singer for Santana. And then, of course, a show that I had the privilege of directing, which was Leon and Friends, which was a fun show because Leon had some amazing friends. You know what? Let's just go right on to him. Leon, welcome to
All right, you guys, how you doing? Good to see you.
Speaking of friends, he's an old friend for us. We've known Leon for years, so it's his time with you, Leon.
Yeah, we go back to the 90s. That was a special time, and we all were just budding, trying to figure out what we wanted to do for the Lord, and it was just a neat time, you know. So I'm thankful that you both are doing what you're doing now to continue the legacy.
You, of course, have had such an amazing career, like I said, all the way back from your days in Santana, and then your days as just a very well-known Christian artist. I don't know, you can tell us all about what you're doing now, and then an announcement about something coming up here in the near future. But why don't we start at the beginning, which I don't know if it's Santana or if there's something prior to Santana, but just give us a little bit of your journey into your life.
Well, actually, I had a band back in the day called Leon's Creation, and we moved to, we were in San Francisco, did a lot of concerts in San Francisco, and then we just kept saying, man, it'd be great if we could break into the industry. So we all said, well, okay, let's get a house down in the Valley, and then we'll all live in that house, and we'll see if we can make this thing happen. So we had a manager, and he was actually working with some top artists at the time. And he said, well, let me put Leon's Creation in front of some of these groups, wherever we play, it was Rare Earth or War or whoever was doing the concert, I would be the one that would start off the concerts. And so that was good for a while. Then I got a call. My manager called me and said, I got a call today from Carlos Santana. And he heard your vocals and he wants you to come back to San Francisco and do an album. I said, oh, man, I thought somebody was punking me. Back in the day, they used to have the cameras. They follow you around. So I said, I'm looking around for the cameras. And it was no joke. So I drove from L.A. up to Mill Valley. Carlos was actually living at the top of a mountain, beautiful little castle house he had. And his wife's name was Debbie. And so she and I went to school together. So when I came and knocked on the door, Debbie opened the door and I said, I thought she was the maid. I said, this couldn't be his wife. I said, she's got to be the maid. But I didn't say that. So I actually gave her a hug and everything. And then Carlos came up behind me. Hey, man. I said, hey, Carlos. He said, have you met my wife? I said, oh, wife. I said, okay. I said, yeah. I said, we went to school together. So anyway, he took me downstairs to his studio. And, of course, the place is all like gold and platinum albums. And then he had incense burning. And so I was like, what is all this incense down here? He said, well, I believe that's like prayers going up to God. I said, wow, I know you could talk about God and rock and roll. But that was cool. So I went and so we started doing all the songs, Black Magic Woman, Oh Yeah, Como Va, Got to Change Your Evil Ways. And then I saw an organ over in the corner. I said, can I go play that? He said, oh, you play too? So I got on the organ, started playing and singing. And he said, Leon, we lost our lead vocalist. And he said, how would you like to be the next lead vocalist for the group?
Wow.
I said, what, serious? And so our first concert was, I don't know if you guys know this from back in the day, but there was a stadium there in San Francisco called Kezar Stadium. And so that's where the 49ers played. And so he said, we got our first concert going to be at the Kezar Stadium. I said, Kezar Stadium? I had only sang for maybe 600 people at that point. And so there was 60,000 people in this place, man. I was in such shock that I didn't even know if I was going to remember the words. And so we started Black Magic Woman, and it comes to a stop, and then I'm supposed to come in and sing. And I froze, man. I said, and then I came in with the words, and it became such a thing because the audience just went crazy. They thought that was a planned thing.
Part of the song.
And so we started doing that every night. So we get to one part, we stop, and everybody go, what's going to happen? I got a black magic. And that's coming. So we just started doing that as a routine, as a regular thing. But anyway, as time went on, I was dating a girl in San Francisco. Her brother was a Christian. So every time I come to the house to see her, here come the brother. And I didn't care if I came front door, side door, back door. And then in San Francisco, you can go through the basement and come up the back door like that. And I don't know where this is like this guy was a butler. He just was always answering every door I came to. So finally he got me to a Bible study, and that's where I heard about the claims of Christ. And I knew from, my earlier days that, this is something I've heard about since my childhood, but I don't know if I could make a commitment. And that's what he was talking to me about, was making a commitment to Christ. I was like, I don't know if I could do that one. But he kept telling me, he said, man, just pray with me. You see God will make a change in your life. And it's right there in the driveway of his house on the corner of Haight and Ashbury, with all the smells of the cannabis and everything. I had the top down in my car, and I was right there. We held hands, and I made my commitment to Christ. That was 1974. Oh, wow. And so, of course, I went back to the Santana group and lit them up. I couldn't keep my mouth shut. So so years later, we get around all these groups. We're out with Jimi Hendrix. We're out with all these people that were in the industry at that time. Even Earth, Wind, and Fire, we went out with them for a season, took them over to Europe. And again, I couldn't keep my mouth shut. So I kept talking to everyone I got around about Christ. And so on one trip, Philip Bailey actually made a recommitment to the Lord, he and Andrew Wilfolk and Larry Dunn. And it was just the neatest thing to see that happen. And that got me on the road to, preaching the gospel.
And then you went with Word Records. Then you left Santana and went with Word Records in, I think, 79.
Yes.
If anyone can remember Word Records, because that was like what everyone was doing.
I know, right? Yeah, those were the days. They were one of the first ones. Well, actually, who was first? Chuck Smith was the first one to grab a hold of me. He somebody introduced us, and he told me, he said, I'm starting this new label called Maranatha Music.
Yes.
I'd love it if you'd come and maybe do something on that label for us. And so I did my first album, Dance Children Dance, on Maranatha. And then we left there, and they said they didn't have the right distribution, and they couldn't get airplay and all that kind of stuff. So they said, well, let me call Word Records and see if they will take you on. So Stan Moser from Word Records, we got a hold of each other, and then the rest is history. All the albums I did from then on was with Word.
Now, you've always been somewhat radical.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, man.
Radical. And you just mentioned your first album was Dance Children Dance. Now, back then, and I know because I grew up in the church, and I'm going to tell you, dancing was a sin. Okay, I was not allowed to go any of the school dances. My parents would turn in their graves if they found out I was dancing. And they're not even in their graves yet, but they will be turning if they find out I'm dancing. So did you get any pushback from the church people because of your style that was kind of out of the pocket there a little bit?
Yeah, I got Pastor Chuck was actually the first wall, because I really had to kind of convince him that was a thing for the youth. And he just kept shaking his head. He said, Leon, you know how he talks. He has that voice like that.
Yeah.
He goes, well, Leon, I don't know if we could do a Dance Children Dance album because that would send things in a whole different direction than how I'm trying to lead this church, you know. And so I told him, I said, well, yeah, but there's a young side that really would enjoy that. So we got the Amazing Grace people. I said, now we need something on the dance tip for the youngsters. And so he said, well, okay, well, and he agreed to do it. And so we put the album out. And again, I couldn't do many churches. I had to do a lot of halls in those days. So we do, I don't know, Madison Square Garden. We do Radio City Music Hall. We do places like that where we perform. Every once in a while, I could do a church, but they were kind of afraid to have me come because I might radicalize the church and everybody be up dancing. So, so it took a minute. I think it wasn't until the 90s I was actually able to go into some of the churches and perform Dance Children Dance. But it's not even a big thing right now. My son, Gabriel, who's in Toby Mac, it's like they done took it to a whole nother place now. Dance Children Dance don't even sound like nothing compared to what they're doing now.
Nothing.
So yeah. But it was radical at the time. You're right, Isaac.
And then when did you, okay, I remember I was doing KKLA back in the 90s and you were doing big concerts and you were in the concert mode and there was big venues under the stars. You know,
yes. Oh, you remember that? Yeah. We, you know, I think there was a period where we were kind of breaking out from one side of the ministry to another. I just enjoyed the changes that were happening at the time because it seemed to be something that we were getting into a natural realm where people that weren't saved were coming. And that was kind of more my interest. I knew there was like Christians around, but I said, well, how are we really reaching the world? Are we doing anything that's going to help people that are really struggling with stuff and don't have any due north, you know? And I thought this music is kind of giving everybody kind of like a due north, you know what I mean? So that I started to enjoy because I could see people that had question marks in their heart, you know, coming forward at the end of the concert and making a commitment to Christ. And I know when we get to heaven, that's what the Lord's going to ask us: who did you bring with you? You know, so that has become the theme of my life now since that time, since some of those outdoor concerts.
And you're doing not only concerts, but you've got the SING Foundation. You did Rise Above Bullying. I mean, you're doing things now that focus beyond just music and career for young people to really, again, connect with that younger generation. Yeah.
Well, Mom and Dad, we always had foster kids in the house. And so when I got out of Santana, that's the first thing I wanted to do was to try to hook up with some sort of a situation like that where I could help kids. So 1985, I joined a group called Koinonia Foster Homes out of Sacramento. And you remember her, Isaac, Miriam Goldie, remember her, right?
Yes,
and so back in the day. Yeah, so anyway, that was just an awesome hookup. And through that, I got baptized into doing something for kids. I just went, okay, well, I can't have them in my house because I'm all over the country. I don't know how I'm taking care of them, but I said, I can do something to kind of contribute to that. And so she said, well, when you do concerts, maybe we can put a table right next to your album table. And then, you know, people will come over and they can sign up, you know, to take kids into their homes. And I said, that's great. So we've got, I just talked to her the other day. We've got thousands of kids in good homes now over these years. And so it's just been a thing. Then we came here, she retired, and we came here to Vegas. I just figured, okay, well, if there's any messed up kids, they're going to be in Vegas. So we moved here. Yeah, so everybody messed up in this city. So 2011, we came here, and we just started throwing our arms around the kids from 8 to 16-year-olds. The programs got canceled in the high schools, and so we just decided, well, maybe we'll do something like an after-school program. So we started having contests for the kids, and one of the Toyota dealerships in town got behind it, and actually he cleared out his showroom and said, why don't you have the contest here? And so it worked out great for him because all the kids and the parents would come. Parents would be looking around the cars. They'd buy cars. And so it gave us a big space to do our thing. And so anyway, that's been the deal. Then he passed away a year before the pandemic. And so that really messed everything up. We kind of got disjointed then because the other people in Toyota dealership didn't get the same vision. But anyway, we're taking this to another level, which we're going to talk about, I'm sure, a little later. But during the pandemic, there was, I shouldn't be laughing, but the suicide rate went up 22%. And so I said, well, man, they're not even in school. How are they getting bullied? And found out they're getting bullied online. So I said, well, maybe if I do something along those lines, maybe a movie or something like that, maybe we can reach those kids that are suicidal and give them a hug. Because everybody I talk to, nobody has any answers to how to deal with suicide. So I figured we'd go this route now. So that's the next move.
But Leon, we literally skipped through a part of your story that I think is very important because it speaks a lot. It speaks a lot to your commitment to God and to what you believe He called you to do. And that is the fact that you didn't stay with Santana too much longer after you became a Christian, did you?
Yeah, no, man, that was a hard move, man, because I felt the Lord telling me I needed to get out and get into ministry. And it's like, well, Lord, what does that mean? I mean, how am I going to live? How am I going to eat? And then He reminded me, He said, when you was a baby, did you worry about all that? He said, I had you then. When you couldn't do nothing, I had you when your head was doing all like this and you couldn't even hold your head up. He said, I had you then. He said, I got you now. He said, don't worry about it. I got you. And so I went to Bill Graham. Bill Graham is the one that did Woodstock. He was our manager, not Billy Graham, Bill Graham. But anyway, I went to him, and he's one of those guys that when he talks to you, he never, everything is 4-letter words. So I just said, I'm going to get a barrage when I talk to him. So I went and I told him, I said, Bill, I got to get out of the group. The Lord's calling me in the missionary work. And he said, well, we figured it's going to happen one day. Leon, what we decided to do, we're going to double your income. I said, double my income? I said, well, look, let me go home and pray about this for a minute. So I went home, prayed, came back, and I said, Bill, I got to get out of the group. He said, Leon, we're going to give you more money. If that's what you need, more money, we'll triple your income.
Wow.
My income. I said,
Wow.
I said, look here, let me go home and pray about this one more time. So I went home, prayed, came back, and then he quadrupled my money. I was like, this is crazy. Geez. So I went out to the car and I said, Lord, I'm going to take this Bible and I'm going to stick my hand in here. Whatever I come up with, I'm going to take that as the word from you, O Lord. And so your own Bible. So I stuck my hand, and I thought this was maybe Deuteronomy 28, somewhere like that. And I stuck my hand and flipped, and I didn't know my Bible was upside down. But I took it and I said, New Testament. And Judas went out and hung himself. I said, oh no. I guess I'm supposed to get out the group. And so that was my release. I left the group, and again, I didn't know what to do. Andre Crouch was the only one out. Him and Mahalia Jackson. Those are the only ones that were doing something out on the music tip. So I didn't know what I was going to do. So that's where that whole that Dance Children Dance and all that came about. I said, well, let me see if I can bring something to the table. And it was actually in the middle of that whole Jesus revolution that we saw the movie, because they didn't have me in it. But anyway, I was there.
Yeah. I know. Well, that's what when I said earlier, you went with Word with 1979, because that was Christian. And so you really did go over all the other way and brought so much joy. And really, I mean, it'd be very hard if someone quadrupled your salary.
I know.
That was hard, Leon. I mean, that would be hard for anybody. Yeah. But the commitment that you made and how God has blessed you, and look at you today. I mean, you're spreading the word, and again, not just to boomers or an older generation who grew up loving you too, but to the younger generation as well. Yeah.
Well, I've gone from, as they say, from Santana to Hosanna. That's a real deal, man. So, wow. And I'm really, I went and saw the movie. Carlos got a movie, was not in the theaters now, but it was like a 3-day run he had. It was a documentary. And so to see my name up on the big screen, that was kind of interesting to see the history and stuff. But that was all that was kind of one way linear. That was just toward people with music. Now we're going to try to get souls to heaven. That's a whole nother part of this music that I didn't realize was going to happen. And I'm really thankful that the Lord is using this music to do something eternal in people's lives. That's a big deal.
Right. What is one of your songs now that you love? We've talked about songs in the past. What is one of your favorites now that you love performing and people are gravitating to?
It's really funny. I have redone 1,000 Years. I don't know if you remember that from that movie. It was it was a horror movie, but about vampires. But I've actually flipped the song because I
Wow.
realized that's what we're going to do once we get saved and once we take Jesus into our lives, we're going to be around him for 1,000 years. You know, so I've kind of redone the lyrics to kind of flip it over to those that get saved will be around him for 1,000 years. And so that's my favorite song right now. So I just actually redid the words and did it at a festival about 2 weeks ago. And everybody was just in shock. They heard the music. They went, what is he doing? Are you doing a vampire song? What's up? So, and then I flipped the words and they just were like, wow, for 1,000 years, we'll be around you for 1,000 years.
Yes.
And so anyway, it was just kind of neat. So that's a song, Holly, that I'm.
wow.
Oh, I love that. I love knowing
I
that.
use that after the altar call. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you got married since I met you, or I mean, knew you in years back, right?
Yes, that's right. I met a Filipino woman. We were on a cruise with Miriam. They actually took me on this cruise to see if we could talk about taking Cornelia foster homes to the next level. And that was horrible, man. Single man on a cruise. I'm telling you, that doesn't work very good. And I went over to the piano. I said, well, let me entertain myself because we hadn't started talking about the foster home stuff yet. And so I sat at the piano and hear the dolphins are jumping out of the water. And then I'm hearing calypso music in the background. People are passing me with those little drinks with the umbrella in it. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. And so I had 2 words. I said, Lord, surprise me. And so I just continued playing at the piano. And then this guy came and sat down next to me and we started singing together. I think I was doing a Bill Withers song, Lean on Me or something I was singing. And he came and started singing with me. And I said, well, you got a good voice. And then next thing I know, here comes this lady walking toward us. And he was Filipino, so she was Filipino. She was walking toward me. Her hair was kind of flopping from side to side. And she looked, like she was in slow motion almost. I said, oh, Lord. And I didn't see no rings and stuff. I said, So she came over, we caught eyes, and then she sat next to this guy. I said, oh, man, that's the husband. I said, forgive me, Lord. So anyway, we continued singing. And then when they got up to leave, they introduced themselves as brother and sister. I said, I said, okay. So it was on, and it's been on since then. So it's been 20? How long we've been married? 24 years now we've been married. So yeah, but it's something, man. That for me, I'm telling you, because with music and this life, I just have to be honest. You, as a musician, there is still that draw to go and do weird stuff with your life. You just, especially if you're a musician, you're always having things attracted to you. And sometimes you're attracted to that thing too. So it's hard to kind of just say, okay, I'm just going to stick with this one situation. And so for 24 years, it's been just this one, which is, for me, that's big. That's huge. So I'm thankful. And maybe because she's Filipino, I don't know. Because they got a whole big family thing going on. And I've kind of learned to be more one-on-one with people type of thing, because usually as a musician, you're on stage and the people are out there. And it's not like you don't really get that kind of relationship stuff happening. So she's kind of drawn me into, having a little bit more closer, intimate relationships with people. So that's kind of neat. Just works right into my what I'm supposed to be as a Christian anyway, but it really helped me out.
Now, Leon, we've got like 3 minutes left. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this new project that you're working on and developing?
Oh yeah, well, like I was saying, it's hard to get into schools now. Some of them, they have a blockage, especially if you're going to talk about anything religious. You can't talk about nothing like that in schools. So during the pandemic, since the rate of suicide went up, I said maybe we can find a way to get to those kids in another kind of venue. And so the whole idea of a movie came along. I said, man, this would be great. We have one girl here in town, 14-year-old girl. She's half white, half Filipino. Struggling. A little bit overweight. She stutters a little bit and just has problems with anything that's got to do with her classmates and people around her. They're always teasing her. She goes to the cafeteria. They're tripping her. And she sometimes lands face down in her food and just all kind of stuff, all the way up to the point of suicide. So anyway, I've kind of crafted the movie around her and her struggles and how she gets over it. And for any of us that will be watching this movie, it's going to be like we're right alongside of her, just pushing her to try to get over this moment, get to this next moment, get to the next day, girl. Come on. So it's that sort of fight in the movie. Plus, or slash, coupled with how me and Renee met on a cruise. Because she was a professional poker player.
What?
A professional poker player when we met. So it's like, how the poker player and a minister gonna have any kind of relationship at all? And so, so we go through the whole story of how we got together. So it's going to be it's going to be Cinderella-ish. It's kind of a cross between Sound of Freedom and Jesus Revolution. It's kind of, but it's got a love story in it. Neither one of them had any love stories. So I'm going to bring a love story now to the Christian community. Sure. And so you'll enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So it's coming out next year, not next year, 25. It'll come out February of 25.
Well, we're going to have you back to talk more about that. We'll do a whole show talking about the movie. And
good. Okay. Great, Holly.
Yeah, when it gets ready to come out, we'll have you back talking about that and really focus on that so that people then can go see it, because it sounds like it's going to be great. I love it.
Good.
Yes. Now, how can people follow you now?
Oh, you just go on leonpatillo.org, leonpatillo.org, and then everything will pop up. We have a foundation called SING, Save and Inspire the Next Generation. That's what SING stands for. And so if you want to help out with the movie, we've got the screenplay done now. And so now we're moving into raising money for the film itself. So they're thinking maybe somewhere between 3 and 5 million, to do it. So we're getting investors involved. And I talked to Lionsgate yesterday, and they're very excited and want to do it. So we'll see. We got a brother over there. So brother in the Lord is over there. And I think either he or Angel Studios, one of the two, both are interested. So we'll see which one will grab it and run with it. Yeah. Friends of yours, Isaac.
Well, I tell you, it's very exciting, and we of course are going to keep up with what you're doing. You and I have been friends, Holly and you, and in fact, Holly and you and me and you have been friends longer than Holly and I have been friends. We go way back.
That's right.
So this is very exciting to hear what you're doing. You're going from musician to movie producer.
Yeah.
And Leon, come see us. Come to Fort Worth and visit the front of the
Yes.
Come see
I'd love to.
film something there. And, Isaac can come up and we can go to Fort Worth and party.
Okay. That'd be awesome.
We can dance, children dance.
Dance.
There we go.
Yeah,
All right.
beautiful.
All right,
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for being on, man. Folks, thank you for tuning in today. We've had a wonderful time. We'll see you all next week.
Write to us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. Also, go to our YouTube channel, Faith on Film TV, and hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications on our latest Faith on Film shows.